Just fucking talk. So, as I've mentioned before, I always have these thoughts through my head, and there's like things I want to share that, like, I'll have an epiphany, and then it kind of goes away, and then I want to write it down, and then I'm like, whatever. And sometimes after I do a video, I'm like, "Dang, I really didn't say that," but it is whatever. It's just I'm trying to let things flow. So yesterday was a little bit. I don't know, blah. The weather was blah, but I started off, got up, did my morning routine, and then just like hit a wall. And later I was thinking about the phrase, and it sounds good. Happiness is a choice. Being happy is a choice, right? What the fuck, right? Oh yeah, I want to be happy, and then you're happy. And as in true fashion, the yin to the yang, the one side to the other, happiness is a choice. Everything in life is a choice, but it depends on where you're at and how to get there, right? Because if, let's say you're depressed, or I mean, you don't know what's bothering you, and you're unhappy, it's you can't just say, "Oh, I want to be happy," but you do have to make that choice and start. And yesterday, when I was thinking about it, it was kind of like, if uh, because you have to have tools, right? You have to have ways to make yourself happy. Different things make us happy. Like, I'm an emotional eater, but when you're trying to watch your weight, when you're specifically trying to get in shape, the food's not an option, so you take that off the table. So yesterday I went back to bed because it works for me. You got to figure out what works for you. So, like, for example, I live in Florida. If I wanted to go from Florida to California, let's say California is the happiness, and I'm in Florida. So that's why this is. You can't get much further being in the United States from there, right? That so in the analogy, that would be, I'm pretty unhappy. So let's say if I lived in, let's say if I was still living in Kansas City, a little bit closer, so it wouldn't take as long to get there, right? So it depends on how unhappy you are, what state you're at. Then it's kind of like, what tools do you have? So if I want to get from unhappy to happy, and using an analogy of getting to California, what are my options? What are my tools? How am I going to get there? Am I going to walk? Am I going to drive? Do I have the ability to fly? Do I have to map it out? Do I have the ability? Do I have a GPS, or do I have to find a regular map, or do I use a compass? So when you look at it that way, as if I'm unhappy, how unhappy I am, because there's different levels. I haven't learned them. I've heard them before. That anger is better than depression. And then, there's steps and levels to get up, and everybody's different. That's why I don't focus on one particular system, but there is a foundation. If you're unhappy, my question is always, how do I get to where I am to where I want to be? If I'm unhappy, I'm like, why am I unhappy? How do I identify that? And what can I do to move forward? And there's different things. Like I said, there's food, sometimes there's buying things. There's sometimes you have somebody you can call. It depends on what you have. You use those, for lack of a better word, those tools to help you move forward. But in the grand scheme of things, what I've learned and what I'm putting into practice, and what it just it's that's it's proven to be true for me, that my state, my being happy, my happiness, me feeling good, which is at a vibration, is it affects what happens to me. I can tell you, my truck, the transmission acts up every now and then, and it's intermittent. It'll go a month without acting up. The other day, I was thinking about a situation that didn't exactly make me feel happy, and I swear to you, my truck started jerking, and I'm like, holy shit, because I've made that comparison before with this particular thought and the truck. And I'm like, you're right. I just got to fucking let it go. And I swear to you, I, the truck started running fine. Coincidence? I don't know. That's no different than the full moon and crystals and astrology. Is it coincidence or, whatever works for you, whatever has a proven method that helps you get to being happy, because being happy and everybody has a different definition of being happy, what that means to them. What I'm talking about is feeling happy, and when someone asks, are you happy? And I'm like, to me, happy means, I mean, I'm not sad, I'm not happy, I'm good. uh so yeah, you have to get. So that's what changes when you get older, because things happen in life, right? You got to go to work, you got bills, you've got taxes. When you're a kid, if you can think about the excitement that you had before Christmas and when you didn't have any worries, and the rest of this stuff is all man-made. If you can reach out for those feelings and find a way to connect to that whenever you get disconnected from that. And it's the same thing as being connected to God or to source or life. When you lose that connection, you start getting all shit starts happening to you that you don't want to happen. And for me, I have a direct correlation with when I'm putting something together, and let's say it's something I haven't done a lot of times, or I'm doing it for the first time and I actually have to look at the directions and things aren't fitting right. If I'm not focused, if I'm not in a good space and I'm thinking about other stuff that bothers me, I'm telling you, it affects my ability to perform. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate when you have to focus on something. I mean, geez, I think about doctors. You think about a surgeon that's got to go into surgery and that's going through a divorce. I mean, he's got to be able to block all that crap out and just stay completely focused on what he's doing. If he's sitting there digging in you and he's thinking about what his ex-wife did or what's going on, I mean, holy crap, right? I mean, ugh. So it's a conscious effort. It's happiness is a choice. But sometimes that choice is like you're going from Florida to California and you don't know how you're going to get there. You got to start figuring out a way, and you got to figure out, the wormholes, the black holes, the to teletransport like Star Trek. You got to be able to find a way to get there quicker. Why am I feeling this way? A lot of times I'm not into astrology and all the this all that stuff. I do I don't disregard it, because there's a lot of times, like when I like yesterday when I'm having a bad mood, I'm like, I wonder if I read my uh, uh, astrology chart or looked at the patterns in the moons or whatever to see if it would correlate. But ultimately, I do believe those things have an effect, more of an effect on some people than they do of others. Ultimately, I think it comes down to you. I think you can control that. That's kind of like default. That's like, if I'm just going to be here and just let things happen, and then you go with it. It's kind of like the seasons, right? There's 4 seasons. If I stay in one place, see, that's why I chose to move to Florida, because the seasons aren't as extreme. So you can choose to live somewhere else. I can choose, which I will be doing soon, to be in different places during different times of the year because I enjoy the weather better. So it's a choice. It's about getting there. It's about not letting outside things control you. So it takes time and effort. It takes when you find yourself clear, and breathing helps with that. Uh, do research. We're in a time now where so much information is available to us. Don't grab onto the first thing. Don't grab onto just one thing. Don't take one person and say, oh my God, they've got it all right. Take their information, take this information. Always, I get three is my favorite number. If you go by threes, get three sources of information. The three strike rule, the three. I usually try to get three different things. If I'm trying to look up and verify something, I try to get three different sources. If two out of the three say that it's true, then I'm more inclined to believe it's true. I'm not going to just listen to one thing and say, "Oh, this is it. This is it," because that's where my journey started in church. I just what I saw going on in the church, and I'm like, how can you say that you're absolutely right? You have the absolute answer, and there's a whole world out there. There's so many different beliefs. There's so many different religions, and this started. Anyway, that's a whole nother thing. That's why I do. You got to do what works for you, and that's why I've said before: there's no right or there's no wrong, depending on what you're going after. So if you're in the church and that keeps you happy, that gets you what you want out of life, that's right for you. It's not right for me. It's not right for this person, but it may be right for the person next to you at the pew. That's up to you to decide. That's the deliciousness of life. That's the contrast of life. So for me, a lot of times when I get down, because uh, I am more centered than I used to be. I know what I want. I ask for what I want. So when things happen, I'm like, okay, I've asked for stuff. I get stuff that I want. So if this is coming to me, there's a reason. Now, a lot of times I'll say, well, why don't I just get the answer, right? Why don't I just, because you have these people that are like geniuses, right? And they just, and I can't give you any direct examples, but they just know. They just have a knowing. Well, they're more connected. They're more in alignment. Some of us had to be led, just like the finding happiness or finding our way to California. You have to be led. You have to look for signs. You have to look for the road signs. You have to look for things that help you get there. So when I have a bad day or something goes wrong or somebody says something or does something or a relationship goes wrong, I look at it and say, okay, is this what I wanted? Is this what I asked for? Is this leading me to what I want? And you have to be careful because I've said it before, the serenity prayer. You have to be able to discern, is this something that I can control or change or not? And then over time, I mean, even keep notes if you have to. Definitely keep mental notes of what works and what doesn't. So then you'll have a knowing that when this happens, I know, okay, this is a sign. This means this, I have to go here. Because if we're always in a reaction mode where we just react to things that people have, we're not in control. We're not being proactive. We're not taking charge of ourselves, our feelings. Uh, and it's a daily thing. That's life. That's why we're here. And that's why we're here to experience. Some of us already have a knowing. We're here. We just want simple, and that's good. And I have to remind myself of who I'm talking to. If you're listening to this is something that resonates with you, and you might need to hear it and glean something from it. So that's why I do it for me and for whoever needs to hear it. Uh, I look for answers, and I used to look for, and Sadhguru Guru said, we always look for conclusions, but what we should be looking for is clarity. And that really resonated with me because I look for conclusions. I'm like, what's the answer? If what's an analogy? Like a car, an engine, a lawnmower, whatever, a combustible engine. It takes oxygen, takes fuel, and it takes a spark. It's that simple. It's those three things. So those are the three things you have to check. Because if you're not getting any air, any fuel, then the spark's not. There's no oxygen. It's not going to spark. If the spark plug's not sparking, if there's not something to ignite the fuel, it's not going to go. It starts there. It's that simple, and then it goes from there. I mean, of course, the cars nowadays are a lot more complex, but in life, it's like there's because everybody's different. There's not a set answer. I can't say, okay, this happened. This is why, because the variables are always different. If you're in a relationship, what happened in the last relationship, there are some fundamentals that will be similar, but it's a different person. And each day you grow and learn, you become a different person. I mean, it's scientifically proven, right, that our cells regenerate, and we're physically different than we were years ago. So you have to keep that in mind. Go with the flow. Don't get stuck. If something works, stay with it, but realize that it may change. So to go back to the beginning, happiness is a choice. You have to make that choice. The distance you are from happiness may be further. There may be more steps than some people. And through practice and figuring that out, why am I feeling this way? Which way do I need to go? Because usually I'm just trying to think back to where I started from, because I've come a long ways from who I was. Who I was couldn't do what I'm doing right now. Uh, and that in a way, that's who I'm trying to reach out to, is to help people get to where I was, to finding a more happiness, to not let outside things control you, how to find, to keep from being depressed and finding your purpose. That was the other thing. Live on purpose. Do you follow your passion? The fuck does that mean? I mean, but you have to ask the right questions, and you have to take the steps towards it. That's You can't just sit there and expect the just to happen. You have to take the steps. That's the challenge. The challenge is in front of you. The action is the growth, and you'll grow and live a better life. So I hope this touched with yeah, whatever. If it helped, it helped. It didn't, it helped me. So thanks for listening. Uh, and I hope the audio was good. I'm gonna order some new AirPods.